What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 162, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're going to chat all things Game Awards related. E3 is officially dead, and Game Pass with ads? Question mark. But before that, got to introduce my co-host, rocking with me every week, JamPackSam. How you doing, buddy?
What is up? We are back again. I'm doing very well. It has been a shockingly busy end to the year because even in the gaming space, like personal life, also busy because the holidays are always busy.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the Game Awards would come and then nothing.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, there's something and a whole lot of something out there. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't relate to our show, but I was literally, we're a little late because we were chatting about how Naughty Dog has officially canceled The Last of Us Online. You can hear all about that when No Limits is putting up their show later over the weekend or later next week, depending on when you listen to it. But yeah, game news hasn't stopped actually. So I was fully expecting like, oh God, what are we going to talk about for the next 2 weeks? I got some ideas in case it does die down, but we have a good show, I think, here.
Oh, yeah, we've got a fantastic show. Again, so the end of an era with E3 officially going away and all of that. So we've got plenty to dig into today for sure.
Yeah, but before we get to that, we got to get through some housekeeping. So if you like the show, we are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/save the game media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite podcast service of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review. It does help us. And I see it. I see the analytics on Spotify. I see the numbers going up. All right. I appreciate everyone that's rated so far. If you haven't, doesn't cost you a dime. Just click that 5 stars for us. If you want to support us further, get early access to all Save the Game Media content and exclusive bonus post shows for $1 a month. Head over to patreon.com/save the game media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, and Lee Navarro. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sam, housekeeping's done. Let's jump into what have you been playing?
So we talked last week. I had been very busy the week before, and I had not had the chance to really get into any games. I played a couple of things, but for the most part, I hadn't played anything between the two shows. This week, very different situation. Got into a ton of games. Last weekend was like the first time in a while I've been able to sit down and really just have an entire Saturday of I'm just going to play some video games from like 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. and just enjoy it. Um, so I finished Immortals of Avium, which is rolled credits on that. Very good
Awesome.
time. I started picking up a little bit of Roller Drome as well because that's on Game Pass now. So I played a little bit of that. Finished Outriders, which I wanted to get back to for a while, which is that game from People Can Fly that has a lot of Bullet Storms DNA mixed in with some Destiny and stuff like that. A little bit of Gears in there as well. Played Vinba that you played a couple of weeks ago, and I really enjoyed that little like 2-hour thing. Not too long of a game
A
overall,
nice
so I really enjoyed that.
heartwarming experience though, right?
Yes, it was very good. I said on X and Threads that it made me want to call my mom because I felt really bad afterwards. But in all seriousness, very good game, fantastic Game Pass game, and then of course Halo Infinite. You know, the one true king, continuing to be in the backlog every single week, and I get back to it. But yeah, that is everything I've been playing. So a solid lineup.
Yeah, so I saw you playing Outriders, and I was like, "What is this man
Yeah,
doing playing Outriders?" A game that came out 2 years ago at this point. Which a game I loved. All right, I
yeah.
remember playing Outriders. I had a great time with it, even though they deleted my character for 2 weeks and I couldn't play.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had a nice bug. But did you play the DLC, or is this just the you still base game?
So I finished the base game and I played the DLC. So I
Okay.
have done everything. So about probably 6 months ago, I picked up a copy of well, it used to be on Game Pass. I'll start
Hmm.
there. And then I started playing on Game Pass. It was going off of Game Pass. So I found a copy of Outriders World Slayer that includes the base game and the DLC for I think $8 at GameStop. And I was like, of course I got to pick it up. So I fell in love with it. And then earlier this year, a ton of other stuff started coming out. So I put it on the back burner. And I'm trying to be very intentional of instead of buying the next big game, I'm trying to actually tackle my backlog of like, okay, I need to play these things because I've bought them with the intent of playing them. So Outriders happened to be next on the list after Immortals of Avium, kind of sticking in that double A kind of range for a little while.
Love it.
But yeah, that is why I was playing Outriders with the six other people that were online in the servers. There were six
No
people online.
way.
Six people online. There are dozens of us. Dozens.
There are actually dozens of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never went back for the DLC. I was kind of satisfied with the end of it. Plus, like at the time, the end game wasn't very good in Outriders, so I was
Yeah.
like, I'm ready to move on. But you're taking the Sean Capri, friend of the show, his strategy for next year: not buying any new games, only playing the ones
Yeah.
he has.
I mean, nothing like I literally have an entire shelf of things that I've just been picking up, and I'm like, okay, it's time. Like, I think next up, I'm probably going to play Elix and Elix 2 just because I bought these games. I
Mhm.
know they're there. I want to play them, so I'm going to play them. So that's my plan. But what, my friend, have you been playing? Because I see the notes. I'm very excited for your thoughts.
Yeah, so I don't nearly have as many things to talk about as you do. I did not play a plethora of games. I wanted to play a little more Remnant 2, but some just haven't had the time for it. That is a game I want to finish before the end of the year. But what I did jump into and what I'm nearly done with, I think I will wrap it up after the show because I'm on like the last act. Alan Wake 2, the final draft. So this is their new game plus mode that they announced at the Game Awards after they won one of the awards they won. They're like comes out Monday. I was there. ROG Ally at work. I delayed my lunch break until like 1:15 because I knew the patch was going live at 1. Immediately booted it up. So I've almost finished my new game plus run. I am just like plowing through it, right? Like I'm not exploring, I'm just doing the quests, finding the new stuff. So there is a bunch of new well, I don't know about a bunch, but there's a good amount of new things they added to the final draft that make it feel like it's hard to talk about this without spoiling Alan Wake 2.
Right.
That they add more context and make it feel like you are replaying the game, but from the contextual standpoint of what you know about Alan Wake 2. And
Mm,
if that makes sense to you, then you've probably played Alan Wake 2. If you were like that doesn't make any sense, Kevin, go play Alan Wake 2. But there's some new videos. Like they have Dr. Darling from Control. He is now in like he has some videos over there. And it's funny because the actor that plays him is the voice actor of Alan. But and
oh,
like
really?
yeah. So like you'll hear they'll do little things like his voice sounds familiar. And I was like, I get because it's your
Yeah.
voice. But yeah. So it's very funny.
Very cool.
Um I haven't got to the ending, which I think is probably going to be the most significant, like expanded details, like change. So I'm excited to see what they do there. I I will say, like I'm going through it really fast. I'm probably going to finish it around 8-ish hours, which is like way less time than it took for a first playthrough. So it wasn't a super big time commitment. Well worth it in my opinion. But yeah, I'm liking it so far. I kind of expected more, but like part of me is like, how much more could they really put into like the new game plus? Because we
Yeah.
have 3 DLCs coming or something. So I'm excited for those. But I really do love Alan Wake 2 still. It's just an amazing game. The biggest change, I had one chapter. You know the old gods, the nursing home chapter
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff went down completely different for me in that
Really?
chapter. I
Oh,
was like
interesting.
I was like, "This is not what you said." Like, there were, like, the nursing home people in rooms where they were not in there last time, and they were, like, yelling at
Hmm.
me, and, like, just things were completely different, and part of
Yeah.
me was like, "Is this New Game Plus, or is this just, like, a different variant of the like, did I go too fast and, like, the character models, like, didn't leave, and, like, this is just stuff you can have happen normally?" Like, it's impossible to know.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing something where whenever I first heard there was New Game Plus here, I'm like, well, it's got to bring something new to the table beyond just like, hey, you've got all of your upgrades and stuff now. So I'm glad to hear that they're doing something where at least you feel like you're getting more of a reward for going back, and if you're really into Remedy, you get a little bit more than
Mhm.
just being able to replay the game with different elements already unlocked and things like that.
Yeah. If you're a Remedy super fan, then you will certainly enjoy this. But like I said, not a big time commitment. I'm excited for play more Remnant 2. I got Immortals of Avium, I think, gonna be my Christmas gift.
Nice.
So we'll be finding some games from between now and the end of January when releases start picking up again.
Very
But
cool.
that's all I've been playing. Why don't we jump into the news because we have a lot to talk about, Sam. Last week was the Game Awards 2023. We live reacted to it. Not Sam. Me, and some of the other members of Save the Game Media here. We live reacted nearly 4 hour stream we did. Uh Pre-show, and then Jeff was like, it's a 2.5 hour show, went more like 3:15, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 11 something. I was like, I need to go to bed. Can we
Yeah.
wrap this up?
Yeah, that was my exact thought of like Jeff said 2.5 hours, and then immediately when 2.5 hours hit, like it was 10 o'clock on the dot, and I'm like, well, looks like it's about my time. So yeah, I did end up watching all the way to the end because I had to see
Me too.
who. I mean, we knew who's going to get Game of the Year, but I wanted to see it, and also like, how's that security team doing? Are we going to have any wild stuff happen? So I stayed up for that, but thankfully did not have any crazy security mishaps this year.
Yeah. So we're only going to run down announcements related to the Xbox platform or Xbox's big announcements. So there will things like we're not going to cover the God of War DLC. If you want our full reactions, you can go catch that live stream as many of you have already done. I know No Limits covered it already on their show. But I want your overall thoughts about the Game Awards, Sam, because before we get into the actual announcements, because there's been a lot of discourse, even still, I'm seeing it like what could Keeley do better? What what went wrong? Just what were your overall thoughts about the night?
Yeah, I mean, going into it, just to like high level overview, if we're giving it a rating out of five, let's just say it like that, I would give it like a 3.5 out of five, maybe a four, like on a good day, because I go into the Game Awards not necessarily wanting like a prestigious video game ceremony. It's more of like a show. You just
Hmm.
go in and kind of enjoy what they give you. And that's how I've always approached it. Now, at the same time, I totally get the criticisms around devs not getting enough time to talk, the awards being more of like an afterthought for half of them or more. But when it comes to being an entertaining way to engage with the gaming audience around the world for 3 hours, I thought it was all right. I thought it was okay. What about you? How did you end up feeling about it?
So I think at the end of the stream, I was one of the higher ones on a part of our panel where I said I would give it about a 7 out of 10. So if 3.5 out of five, about the same as you're rating it, and that is really carried by a few bigger announcements, which we'll probably talk about. I think that the show was way too long. I think they could have cut a lot of the show out and had the pacing feel a bit better. I understand like the show needs to be funded with those ads, but there are way too many ads. I don't think we need to spend 10 minutes with Gonzo from the Muppets. Like there are just things that Jeff can make it a tighter show that would make a better viewing experience. Maybe we could have used that time for things like highlighting the developers and those devs that didn't get to come up on stage, that didn't get to accept an actual award and just got spitfired. Like they even give away awards during the pre-show, which some of them I understand. Like they do the esports ones there, which is like that's not your main audience, right? Like I'm sure esports players are tuning in, but those aren't the awards people are really tuning in for. Those are like we need these to pay the bills because they're like sponsored by Discord.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was an okay show. I think a lot of the criticism I've seen is completely fair about the developers not getting the time, about them not really like I like the game awards. I like the announcements. So when I see people things like we should have a night dedicated to just the awards and then just the announcements, I'm like, great. People will only tune into one night of that show.
Yeah. I think that looking at, what you said here, Gonzo with the Muppets, Anthony Mackie going off for like 5 minutes about Twisted Metal and engaging with the audience in a really weird, abrasive way. And I would even go so far as to say, like, Kojima and Jordan Peele on stage for like
Yeah,
five
we'll
minutes
get to
talking
them.
about OD. I
Oh,
know we'll talk about that
you're being
more.
generous. 5.
Yeah, and then on top, I mean, just looking at if you want to break it down to like this second by second thing, those people got too much time in comparison to like I don't know the Baldur's Gate 3 team that literally is winning all of the awards. It just didn't feel like it was divided up in a way that was fair to what the awards are meant to be for a value. Like if you're giving me something that has a ton of more value, then sure, but like a literally multi-minute skit with Gonzo is unnecessary. I don't need to
Hmm.
see Animal from the Muppets on stage anymore. That is a 2008 award show move, Jeff Keighley. We can drop the Muppets. It is
Yeah.
okay.
I love the Muppets. I just watched a Muppets Christmas Carol, my favorite Christmas
Oh, well,
movie.
there, yeah,
All
of
right.
course. I mean,
But I
it's
don't
his
need
the
them.
season.
I don't need them.
Yeah, not on my game awards. No.
Let's jump into the actual announcements because there were some good stuff here. So we'll just go through these. Exodus was announced. This was the Matthew McConaughey pew pew
Ah,
pew.
yes.
Yes, game that he came out. This studio, I think, his archetype is made up of former BioWare staff, and kind of gave me Mass Effect vibes. Now there was no release date or platform or any like actual things really shown about this game, but the fact that it's from writers of Mass Effect and former BioWare staff, and the little bit of gameplay we did see, I think it has some potential. I'm not entirely sold on the interstellar, like time moves differently type of premise of the game, but did this one do anything for you?
I mean, I like the premise of it. Whenever he was going in to announce it, immediately I thought, is this an Interstellar game? Because of the way that he's leading into it. But I always get a little bit hesitant whenever anybody brings out a celebrity to announce a game and then they're really into it. Like, I'm doing the facial capture, I'm involved in the development. And I'm like, well, are you just there to like drive hype because you're Matthew McConaughey? So
He wasn't even in the trailer.
yeah, that was the other thing as well, and it's just like I'm running it back now just to refresh my memory on what this game actually looked like, but the way that he described it seems like marginally interesting, but I got the same amount of hype from this as I did with Rebel Moon from Zack Snyder of like, it could be cool, I don't know, sure, let's see what it
That
is.
is a good comparison to make. Yeah, Zack
Yeah.
Snyder's Rebel Moon.
It's just like new sci-fi IP with famous person connected to it. Enjoy, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah, it's all right. It's pretty good.
Well, this was the one that ended the pre-show. We got a new trailer for Metaphor Refantasio, and I know Sam, this is definitely a game you're looking forward to. Coming from Atlas, this trailer looked absolutely amazing to me. We finally got a window, fall 2024, and what I said on stream. I'm glad Sega and Atlas are like, let's give this one some space from our other releases and not cram it all into the start of the year, because January you get Yakuza 8, and then you get Persona 3 Reload literally a week apart, which I'm like, what are you doing? You're cannibalizing your own game. So I'm really excited for this one. You don't really have to talk about this one, Sam, but if you wanna.
Man, let me tell you, every day I wake up and I wonder when Metaphor Re Fantasio is going to get a trailer, and that was the day. Now I'm glad you're happy. That's all I'm going to say. I'm glad you're happy. I'm hyped for you, man. Enjoy, enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny when so, like non JRPG fans see JRPGs and like I'm over like, oh, this looks so good, and then to them, I'm like, this must look like the weirdest thing they've ever
Oh yeah.
seen.
Yeah. Anytime I see anything related to this genre pop up, I'm typically like, "Do I need water right now? Probably need water right now." And then I
Right.
just go get a refill or whatever, and come back and see what else is coming up. So, but yes, I am excited that you are excited.
Also, this one was leaked. Also in the pre-show, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is getting a remake coming out February 28th. This is a game from Joseph Ferris, who made A Way Out, It Takes Two. This was their first game. To me, it seems pretty much like, let's remake our first game while we work on our other project, because this one, like, we have critical acclaim now.
Yeah, I think that looking at the trailer for this one, it does look like a significant amount of work has gone into it. Like it does look like it's a fully modernized game, which is nice to see. And also, this is one that I've always heard great things about. I've never actually played it, um, so this might be the chance for me to go back and give it a shot and see what comes of it. Could be also like again, not every game has to come to Game Pass, but this could be a really good one to see on Game Pass because it
Hmm.
is technically an older game, but it's newer. It's going to have a little bit of hype around it just because it's coming from Joseph Ferris and his team. So, would love to see that. But it's cool whenever old games get a legitimately good, worthwhile new coat of paint on them, and that's what we see here.
Yeah, this is a shorter. I think it's like 3 or 4 hours long, from what I
Very nice.
recall. I own it on multiple platforms because it's been given away for free. I've just never played it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to go back to it, whether it's the original or the remaster. I definitely want to check it out.
Let's chat about this one. Space Marine 2 has finally got a release date. It's coming September 9th, 2024. I played Marine 1 for the first time this year, which I know
Yeah.
you also played because we've talked about you also played Space Marine 1 this
I
year.
did. Yeah, I played the enhanced edition, I think is what it's called on PC. It's the newer
Same.
version,
Yep.
anniversary or whatever. And I played the original version a couple of years ago. But yeah, this just looks so good, and the technology they're bringing is like you've got hundreds of enemies on screen at one time, or whatever they're throwing around. Lots of enemies on screen, and yeah, Space Marine 2 is just like imperialistic Gears of War. It's just
Hmm.
got a really cool vibe to it. And if you're a fan of Warhammer, Space Marine 2 is just a really fun third person shooter take on that world. And so I'm excited to play this one. Date's fine. Don't care when it comes out. Take your time, make it look good, make it play well, and I'm going to be a happy guy.
Third person, I think it has 3-person co op as well. So I'm looking forward to hopefully playing some co op. That'd be
Oh,
great.
yeah. I would be down. I would be down.
Awesome. Let's chat about this next one, which I want to talk a little bit. Tales of Kenzera Zhao. It's an EA original coming April 23rd, 2024. So this is actually being made by I think it's Sargent Studios, I want to say. But I know the voice act. There's a voice actor that's been in things like Assassin's Creed. He was out there to introduce this game. This is a game dedicated to his father who passed away, and I've watched the game show. I've watched the Game Awards a few times now. Just like I like to go watch other people's live reactions and see what other people think. And every time I see this, like this is probably the most emotional part of the Game Awards.
Yeah, you can definitely tell whenever this guy was talking about him getting into game development and starting to put this game together and dedicating it to his dad. And, like, it's got a very, very deep level of passion behind it. And you always love hearing that's why I like hearing devs on stage talk
Hmm.
about what they're working on, is that you get to see the meaning that it has, or in some cases, the lack thereof. But this was not one of those cases. And the gameplay looks solid. I'm excited to check it out. I do worry about it getting a little bit cannibalized by like Prince of Persia, because I think vibe
Hmm.
wise, they're very, very similar in
Yep.
nature. So that's my only concern with it. But at the end of the day, it's got a really good story behind it. Excited to see games like this continue to get the spotlight on a stage like Keeley's. I think that's great that it was up there. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out for sure. But I do have concerns about it being overshadowed, but we will see what time brings.
Yeah, I personally think this game looks better than Prince of from what I've seen. Like this appeals to me more than the Prince of Persia game. And luckily Prince of Persia comes out in January and this is April 23rd. So
Yeah,
there are a few months, but I understand what you're saying. Like if people are looking for that 2D Metroidvania S style game, they're probably
yeah,
gonna go with like the name recognition over
right.
this one where it's a little more obscure of a naming title. This also releases for JRPG fans the same day as Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, which is in Game Pass, which,
It
you know,
is.
we're seeing a lot of those. There's another game that we're not going to talk about, but Rise of the Ronin,
Oh,
that
yeah.
PlayStation game, launches the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't know who thought that was a
Oh,
good idea.
yeah, that is not going to be good. Probably, I would assume, for Ronin, right? Like, it's gonna get overshadowed by
I
Dragon's
think
Dogma.
so.
Yeah.
From what the hype I've seen online is like Dragon's Dogma 2 would win that battle.
Yeah, I think that might be a throw up against marketing, like, which one is throwing more money into marketing, because Dragon's Dogma is not necessarily like, it's not like you're going up against a God of War or Cyberpunk or something, but it also isn't. I don't know, that's an interesting one, but either way, why just move your games a little bit? It's alright. Alan Wake did it. It turned out great. Just put them out a little
Like a
ways.
week. Literally just
Yeah, it's
move it like a
fine.
week.
Yeah,
It's
just
all
just
good.
shuffle those days around a little bit.
Let's talk about Supermassive's next game, the casting of Frank Stone. This is their Dead by Daylight narrative game that they make in their horror style game that they do. I really like Supermassive games, as I've discussed many times on the show. I played through all of them. Um, they're working on a lot of projects right now. They got this one. They're putting out Little Nightmares 3 next is it next month, even in 2024. There's rumored to be working on a Scream video game in the style of their
Ooh.
games. And then they also have their next Dark Pictures game coming out. So they're very busy. What do you think of the crossover here with Behavior and Supermassive?
I saw this and immediately I was like, "Oh, it looks cool," but I also know that typically these games require other people to play with, like, you gotta have a squad.
They're
And
more fun,
then
yeah.
and then they said it's a single player game.
Oh.
And then I thought this might be the first one that I play because I just don't typically play with people. And I'm correct in that, right? Like they did say it was a single player game, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can play all their games single player, but it is more fun in like a party setting where like you
Yeah.
pass the controller and people like make their like have to try to keep certain characters alive. Like that's their
Yeah.
whole kind of spiel.
Yeah, because I think this one is their first like foray into a game designed for a single player. That was my understanding around it. And so, again, if you're watching, correct me in the comments if I'm totally off on that. But with that understanding going into it, this feels like it is what it needs to be for me, somebody who typically plays solo. Of like, all right, give me a horror experience similar to like a
Mm.
Resident Evil or something, where I can get
Oh.
into it and kind of get in that narrative without feeling compelled to like, oh, I wish I had two other, like I could be playing it solo, but I would always wish that I had other people. I don't feel like I have to do that with this one going into it. So I'm excited to
Mm.
check that one out for sure.
I didn't get that impression from it. I You might be right. I cannot fully remember the trailer at all. I know I heard single player narrative focused. I assumed that it was just going to be like their other games, but if it isn't, if it is more of a like, I would love them to actually make a game with like gameplay. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that I heard Keeley say that as a single player game, but
Ooh.
again, everybody can correct me if I'm probably horribly wrong. But either way, it looked great, and I'm glad to see them kind of branching out and trying new stuff with it. I think that's very cool.
Let's stay in the horror genre. Jurassic Park Survival was announced and immediately made me look like an idiot. Where the other Sam was like, "Oh, this is a survival horror game," and I was like, "Oh, like Alien Isolation." I don't know. I don't think it's a survival game, and then it's literally called Survival. So
Yeah, well, it looks really good. I'm excited about it. The whole plot of it being one day after the events of the original movie is super cool just because you'll get even in the trailer you see the little nuggets of like, oh, I remember that scene or I remember when he dropped this or whatever and you see the things laying around the island and so
Easter
it'll be
eggs, yeah.
cool. Yeah, it'll be cool to go back, find those Easter eggs, and kind of re-experience for yourself of like, all right, you're a scientist who accidentally got left here. How do you survive on an island full of dinosaurs that are just roaming around? That's a really neat idea.
So I guessed it on the Xbox Drive over the weekend. Shout out Ryan Turford, Sean Capri over there. They had me on, and my big thing for this one was I don't find dinosaurs scary. Is my whole issue.
Mhm. I
So
mean, I think
they
that's okay.
they gotta nail the tension or something for like this game to hit for
Yeah,
me.
I don't know if it going into it, I think of it more of like a survival game than it is a survival horror game. Because I also don't really I mean, like, no, don't get me wrong. If a T-Rex was standing above me, I would probably,
Oh
like
yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be horrifying.
yeah.
But in the context of a video game, I also agree that it's not the same as like a zombie or a mutant or like Dead Space, whatever's. So I totally hear what you're saying. I think it's just cool the idea of like a T-Rex survival game. The same thing with like the Lego Fortnite survival game that's out right now. Like it's not scary, but it's fun to like do survival things in it. That's kind of the way that I see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. I have no idea what's going on in Lego Fortnite. I just people are like, oh, it's like Fortnite, but also Stardew Valley.
Yeah,
Like what?
it's very we could do a whole episode on what's happening in Fortnite right now, but effectively they are currently diversifying their income stream to survive not being a BR as BRs collapse, as things like The Last of Us Online go to the wayside and these games start to kind of get culled a little bit. Fortnite's going to be surviving with various IP things that bring in millions of dollars.
Logan in the chat. Lego Fortnite is Minecraft Rust. Two games. But I now know everything I need to know to never touch that.
Yeah, well there you go.
Thank you for confirming, Logan.
Yeah.
Uh, Square Enix showed up with Visions of Mana announced, and it's coming day one to Xbox Series X and S. Square Enix, they've arrived, Sam.
Yeah, that's very cool. And looking at this one, I think I was talking to my fiance about it, and it's like I've never been a big Mana person. Like that's never really been a series that I've wanted to look into. But it is great to see Square Enix again getting involved in the Xbox ecosystem, bringing stuff to the table, and not having to have a big wait period in between it. So that's sick.
They're keeping their promise. Only 7 remakes coming any day now, guys.
Yeah, any day, please, God,
Any
drop
day
them.
now. Black Myth Wukong got a trailer and a release date of August 20th, 2024. This game looks visually so good, like absolutely stunning. If they hadn't dropped the release date, I've always been under the impression like this game is vaporware until they actually
Yeah.
like have it in my hands. They put a release date on it. I don't know if they'll actually hit that release date, but very ambitious looking game. I hear it's a little soulsy, but like it just looks so cool, like combat wise, action focus wise. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm a big Wolong Fallen Dynasty guy, and
Hmm.
so I've been looking at a little bit of Black Myth Wukong, and I'm like, we're going from Wolong to Wukong. We're gonna see what's going on with it. I do think it's weird that I don't know if this game is on the level that warrants it getting as much of a time frame between the trailer and the release date. Like I feel like this trailer and the gameplay put out in June with an August release date would feel a little bit more like, all right, the hype machine is rolling now, because unless they have like multiple things planned between now and August of next year, that's a pretty long wait time. I could see like at the Xbox show a big gameplay section, like a 10-minute demo or whatever shown off maybe, or during Summer Game Fest. But either way, I'm definitely excited. I'm in on day one. Definitely liking the direction of it. It looks very good.
Yeah, this keeps showing up at Keeley's events. I think the first time we saw this like online was 7 years ago. Like it's been a long time that they've been like touting this game. And this is like the developer, I think Game Science, their first actual game. I think they were like a mobile game developer before this. So
Mm,
it all signs pointed to this to be like, I don't know if this game's ever actually gonna come out. And
yeah.
now we'll see next year.
Hey, well, I mean, we had the day before, so anything could have
Oh
happened. But lo
my
and behold,
god. I never even
yeah.
heard about the day before until everyone started posting videos about it online, and then I was like, "What is this atrocity?"
Oh yeah, we could go into it once again, a whole episode on that. But now DayZ is running a the day after
It's
sale.
so good,
If you want to
Daisy.
pick that up, they are roasting them. Now, admittedly, is it a little bit classless? Arguably. Is it hilarious? Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty funny. But yeah, I'm sure they're selling a good amount of copies. Also on Game Pass, by the way. Also on Game Pass.
Yeah, I saw some fantastic the studio behind the day before or whatever um shut down
Yep.
after like 4 days of
Yep.
releasing the game, and I was like, yeah, it's because it's not a real game. It was a scam, and now you're trying to like run away with the money, but the publisher ain't having that.
Yeah,
So,
no, they're making them give all the money back. And then also they responded to one of the fans with I think the direct quote was shit happens
yep,
sometimes.
yep,
Yeah.
yes.
And, and I'm like, well, if I was making a game, and I was burned out, that might be something I say. I'm also not a game developer, so you shouldn't say that. It's
Mm.
not that was not great PR, not at all.
Imagine if Naughty Dog put out that shit happens. Yeah.
Oh man, if you an update on The Last of Us Online, click the link. Shit happens sometimes. Neil
That's
Druckmann.
that's it. All right. Time for the big announcements. The last few we have here. I'm gonna go to my least hype one. Capcom announces Monster Hunter Wilds for 2025. I thought the trailer was super anticlimactic. It was basically just someone riding a monster up onto a cliff, and then you see Rathalos fly by.
Yeah.
Um, Literally nothing here to get me excited. 2025, I think, is in why even bother? Why announce this? This was
Yeah.
not the mic drop moment Jeff thought it was going to be for me.
Yeah, no, I'm not a Monster Hunter guy at all. Just never. I've tried multiple times to get into various games. I played a 3DS one, a PSP one. I played Monster Hunter Worlds, and I played tons of other ones. Just never has been something that I'm going to get into. So I will not be playing this. But yeah, I agree. Just not a super great trailer in any capacity, no matter how you look at it.
Let's talk about Moon Studios, the team behind Ori, Xbox exclusives. Oh well, no, they previous Ori. Now they're on Switch. But no rest for the wicked. They've announced this is an action RPG coming from the Moon Studios team over there. I think the game looks pretty good. Gotta be honest with you. Very fast, fluid. Art style is beautiful. Like this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, when it comes to the look of this game, looking at the Steam page, I mean, it's like if you said, "Hey, I want to showcase ray tracing." what kind of game can you make to help me showcase some ray tracing? And it's just got the best looking lighting here. And coming from the people that made Ori, you know it's going to be a beautiful game. I'm very
Hmm.
excited to check it out. And I think it's cool that they're kind of branching out and doing something that's very, very different than what they've done before. So I definitely want to check this one out as soon as it comes out. Not a Game Pass one confirmed yet or anything, right? Like
No.
this is just a
No,
game.
that yeah, they're having some Wicked Inside or some little showcase that they're going to be putting on
Yeah.
to give you more information about this game. It wasn't even announced for like platforms, I don't think, but I assume it's coming to Xbox.
Yeah. Wicked, is that what they're calling it? Wicked Inside?
Something silly like that. I can't remember what the actual like. I remember seeing at the end like you could find more on
It
ultrasound.
is
Yeah, yeah,
Wicked Inside
yeah.
streams
Wicked
March
Inside.
for yeah, I'm gonna change the name of that to Wicked Sick Nasty, and we're just gonna roll with the various descriptors so you can tune in to Wicked Sick Nasty in March to see that sick gameplay.
Yeah, that's also coming to PlayStation, as Sam pointed out. Of course, yeah, I'm sure it's coming to everything.
Yeah.
Um, Next up, Sega has announced 5 new games in a pretty awesome trailer filled with a bunch of nostalgia sound clips. You get Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Crazy Taxi, Streets of Rage, and my personal pick, Golden Axe, all confirmed to be in development and more, they said. Which, if you've been paying attention to Twitter, a bunch of trademarks have been showing up, and there could be a lot more games coming.
Yeah, it's very cool to see them going all in on nostalgia because a couple of years ago, you never would have seen this coming from Sega. And the fact that we're talking about Jet Set Radio in 2023, number one, so glad to see it coming back. Number two, I guarantee you the Bomb Rush Cyberpunk people are like, thank God our game is out right now because otherwise everything is derailed.
Hmm.
No pun intended with derailed. But yeah, very happy to see Jet Set Radio. Crazy Taxi, of course, like, please get that soundtrack dialed in. I need a killer soundtrack on whenever new Crazy Taxi comes out, or if it's a remake or a remaster, spend whatever money you need, lock down that Offspring soundtrack, written. I just need the original. It's so good. So I'm very, very happy to see Sega going in this direction.
Yeah, this was one of my most hype, like get hype moments during the Game Awards because I love Sega. I feel like Sega has really had some sort of like revitalization in the last, I'd say, like 5-ish years, and this is kind of their. I think it was Sam Heaney said their Capcom moment, where they're like remakes or reboots of like
Yeah.
franchises and trying to get those. So I did pull up the other trademarks that Sega has filed, some of them anyway. So Alex Kidd, which is an old school game. They did a remaster a few years ago. One Afterburner, which I'm not even familiar with. House of the Dead, Outrun, Super Monkey Ball, which they've been putting out Super Monkey Ball games, so that's a little less exciting. But were there some other, Kid Chameleon, Altered Beast, which I don't
Ooh,
I don't know who's looking for an Altered Beast game in 2023, but
a better version of the remake or whatever they put out a couple of years ago. I remember that Altered Beast thing was horrible. I remember that.
yeah, so Sega could be just looking back at that. Remember when we made consoles? What if we just made all those games again?
Yeah, that'd be great. The fact that I had not seen this full list. I saw it like floating around on Twitter, but it was in passing during a break or whatever. The fact that Outrun is included here, for me, that game is legendary. That's like, I love me some Outrun. So figure out what that looks like in a modern day. I am in every day of the week.
Captain Logan's with you.
Yeah, Outrun is like if you like arcade racers, a lot of what was the Horizon Turbo thing? I forget what game was on Game Pass, but it was Horizon Turbo something. Let me
Hmm.
hold on. I got to Google it. Horizon Turbo Aftercharge maybe? Horizon Chase Turbo. That's what it was. Horizon Chase Turbo is like modern day Outrun. It's got like a pixel art style and Outrun just has like vaporwave synthwave kind of vibes to it. It's just got a great 80s feel. I love that stuff. So definitely want to see more of that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Sega like over the next couple years. Like I assume these will start coming out to complement. And it was a nice little interview they did after the fact where it was like we've been relying on Sonic, Persona, and Yakuza. So like now we need to make some other games.
Yeah.
And but I will say one thing surprising me about this announcement: no Virtua Fighter has been confirmed as of now.
That
And
is strange.
I thought for
Yeah.
sure this was I thought for sure it was going to be Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, I have definitive memories of Virtua Fighter on the PlayStation 3 and like a Walmart Target demo kiosk or whatever. And I feel like Virtua Fighter coming back, it'll be really hard to tap into the market where Street Fighter is absolutely killing it. Tekken's about to come out and kill it. You've got Mortal Kombat firing on all cylinders. I don't know if you can come back and successfully integrate Virtua Fighter into that mix and really win mind share. I mean, am I wrong? Do you think they could really come back?
If they bring it back and don't change the mechanics, then I don't think they're gonna win anyone over. Like fighting
Mm,
games have evolved so much. Virtua Fighter is so basic, even like the latest Virtua Fighter. It's just not a it doesn't have all the flashy like heat meters and big
yeah.
crazy combos that a lot of these fighting games do. And I think the president talked about that when asked about it by Gene Park over there at Washington Post. Like, where's Virtua Fighter? It's like we need to figure out like how we can evolve and compete with modern fighting games. Because I don't know if you're Tekken 8 is putting out a new trailer like every day, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at that. I was like, this game looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I like how you said the president and didn't define who that like Joe
Oh,
Biden
Sega.
out
Oh,
there.
Sega. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, Joe Biden
yeah,
commented when asked at the White House press briefing by Gene Park of the Washington Post. What do you think
yeah,
about Virtua Fighter, Joe?
yeah. I mean, it's a valid question. I think somebody should really raise these points. Election year next year, we need to know. The
I
people
need,
deserve to
I need
know.
I need to know Joe Biden's stance on Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, I've got to figure out who I'm voting for. If there's no virtual fighter in the next 4 years, I'm just saying. No, I don't know. I don't know. It's up for debate.
All right. Three announcements left I want to talk about. So let's talk about the one that we've seen before. Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga got a new trailer, still dated for just 2024, but we finally saw combat in this trailer. This was the most in-depth we've seen of Hellblade 2, and I was blown away. This might be the most beautiful game I've ever seen in my life. I think combat, while not super changed from the first one. It looks more, gets more refined, more brutal, more visceral. And I just cannot wait for this game. My only disappointment is still no exact date.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that is missing here is that we don't know when it's coming out. 2024. I mean, I would have to imagine I could be reading into it too much, but that could be June, that could be October, and they might
Mhm.
not know which one it's going to be yet. I feel like at this point you should be dialing in on when you're actually going to be putting this game out. Um, is it big enough to be a holiday game? I think we talked about this on one of the recent shows, but like, is Hellblade is that a big enough player for Xbox to say, all right, up against whatever PlayStation's equivalent of God of War or Spider-Man is, can that be Xbox's offering for holiday 2024?
I think for me, yes. Like I would be way more excited for Hellblade. But I know in general, like Hellblade is more, the first one is more niche, even though it did sell pretty well. Like it's had 7 million players or something. Um, I don't know if it gets that kind of fanfare in like the mainstream. Like if people go into the store during the holidays, I don't think the mom's gonna be like, I gotta get Hellblade 2 for little
Yeah.
Jimmy, put it in his stocking. I would love that. I really thought this was going to be like a first half of the year game, and it still very well could be. We get a developer direct next month or in February. They could be
Very
like,
true.
"We're putting out in 3 months. Like we just wanted the date for our show." It could still happen. I am a little more like feeling now this is probably a fall game, and then
Yeah.
Avowed would be sooner, and then maybe Towerborn is their big like it's second party, but they're big like Xbox Game Studios offering for the first quarter, and then they're going to rely on things like Stalker 2, which is also dated for
Oh
quarter
yeah.
one.
Yeah, I think that I would love to see it. I think that Hellblade 2 would be its most impactful if it was, like you said, Developer Direct comes out with a January 18th. I think that's whenever they had Hi Fi Rush's Developer Direct was like mid to late January. That comes out and they're like, hey, March 22nd, Hellblade 2 drops. And it's
Don't
like,
drop it March 22nd. That's Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma. Don't.
no, that perfect. Decimate everything. No, but I don't even know why I said that. I guess that's why it was top of mind. But you know what? Do it. Let's just embrace the chaos. But you know what I'm saying? Like put it out
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
April, like
No.
early April, something like that, to where there is a 2 to 3 month window where you can hype it up. But visually, getting back to like the actual gameplay, looks beautiful. I think that somebody tweeted out, but like if you haven't, go back and look at that 4K gameplay trailer, like the direct upload straight from not from the Game Awards, but from them. It's just going to be a gorgeous looking game, and I love games that
Hmm.
focus on the fidelity and focus on delivering this great story. And I think that Hellblade's going to be a game of the year contender when it drops, just based on these trailers
I hope so.
alone. Like it really, really looks impressive. So I'm excited to see what they finally deliver.
I hope so, man. I really hope so. But we'll wait for the official release date on that one. Let's talk about Hideo Kojima. All right. So
Yeah.
we've known for bit now that he's working with Xbox on some cloud focused game. People thought he was going to show off Death Stranding 2 here. Nah, nah, nah. It's the Xbox game called OD, which we've has seen this leak. This leaked like a year ago or so, a few months ago at some point. Overdose, essentially. Um, he's working on it with Jordan Peele, the movie
Yes,
director.
he is.
I listen. I've heard people get really excited about this. All right, people love Kojima. People love Jordan Peele. I don't fall into either of those camps. I've never
Hmm.
liked a Kojima game, and while I love Jordan Peele from his comedy work and things like Key and Peele on Comedy Central, I have not enjoyed Jordan Peele's movies. And that is a hot take. I know they're not for me. I'm not saying they're bad movies, but I find myself incredibly bored and like underwhelmed with the way he tells movies. So this combined with the fact the trailer basically didn't show anything except like people repeating weird phrases and just like stars in their eyes. I'm not excited. I don't have any feelings towards OD at the moment.
Yeah, I think that for me, I was kind of in that boat. I appreciate Jordan Peele's work. I have not seen any of his movies, but I know that he's very well esteemed. With Kojima, I totally get Kojima. I know why people like him. I also love Death Stranding, so I'm excited. There's a movie coming out with Death Stranding. Excited about that. So this definitely has some hype for me. But have you seen the new finding in the trailer? Have you heard about this?
I have heard about it. And I saw the people's like the screenshots that like you can see the hidden symbols, and I was like,
Yes.
I can't see any. Like, what am I missing here? I'm not
Yeah.
really. I explain it. You can explain it way better than me.
So if you up the brightness on the video, you can see letters in the man's mouth as he is talking. And so if you look at that I forget what the word is, but basically it is spelling out a city in Japan. And the province of that city in Japanese means Silent Hill. And so people are thinking that this is what he had wanted to do with Silent Hills, which was the playable teaser that went viral 10 years ago because of how good it looked. And everybody was hyped up about this is like the horror game of the decade and all of that. So this could be his vision for what that was going to be. That got me excited. Like that concept is now getting me on board.
Okay. Okay. Um, they so when they were talking about it, which took way too long,
Very
by the
long.
way. We didn't need 15 minutes of this because it is that thing where like Jeff asks a question, then Kojima speaks, then the translator has to tell us all what he said, and then you got Peel coming out. But essentially, they're like, "What is this?" And he's like, "It's a game, but also a movie, but neither and both at the same time." And I was like, "I what what is
Yeah.
going on here?"
Yeah. Now, to be fair, though, I arguably Alan Wake 2 is the same thing. You know, when you really take a step back and think about it, there's some live action elements in there. There's a little bit of, it's mixed in with some gameplay. So it really depends on that ratio, I think, when it comes down to what the game is actually going to be. Because I think that he knows and everybody knows it's got to have gameplay in there. Like
Mhm.
you can't just put out Immortality with Kojima's spin on it. Like it's got to have something a little bit more robust in there. So that's not a huge turnoff for me just based on that definition alone.
So this is being published by Xbox Game Studios. I imagine it'll be coming a few years from now. Like I don't think we
Oh
see
yeah.
this anytime soon. Like this is the first initial look at the game. But Sam isn't familiar with visual novels, is he?
Nah,
Probably not.
I am not a visual novel guy. I must admit, no.
Gameplay. Who needs it? All right, Sam. Let's talk about the best announcement of the night for Xbox especially, but for also me and the internet warriors out there. Arcane Leon is making a Blade game.
Very
Um,
nice.
so this is me very excited. Arcane Leon obviously is the team behind Dishonored and Deathloop, not Redfall. But when you first saw the trailer, you're like, "Oh, it's a vampire game."
Yep.
That what are they doing here? And then it became pretty obvious. Like once you see the shades and stuff, I was like, this is Blade, and I have a pretty good reaction to this, where I genuinely couldn't believe that this is a game they're making. Um, how we're gonna talk about the exclusivity nonsense, but how do you feel about the announcement?
I think that it is I think it's a good pairing of a studio with an IP. Like, I think that Blade going to Arcane Leon makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. I feel the same way going into this game that I felt going into Redfall, and that is like, you got to dial in the actual gameplay of it because Dishonored plays very well, but it feels kind of clunky whenever you're getting into it and kind of moving around. So I want the gameplay to feel fluid. I want it to feel like I'm kicking ass as a vampire hunter, basically. And I think they know that. I think Marvel knows that. I mean, when you're working with Marvel, who has worked with Insomniac on a game
Mhm.
like Spider-Man, they know what it takes to make a good game, and I would assume they're going to hold you to that same accountability level. So I am excited, but I do want to see more whenever the time is right of like what this game is actually going to be. We got some concept art today that looks very
Yep.
good. I like that. And I like the setting of being in Paris, like a little section of the town that's been overrun. So I'm feeling good about it.
Okay, Sam. Time for the question. Is Blade going to be an Xbox exclusive game? Because there was no Xbox branding on the trailer. There was nothing about Game Pass or play only on Xbox like there are for other things. This has set the internet ablaze. People are throwing all reason out the window. They don't care who's owned by who anymore. All right. No logo, no exclusivity. What are we feeling?
I mean, I said it before and I'll say it again. If you can have Spider-Man as a PlayStation exclusive and it is Spider-Man, then there is no reason that Xbox should feel compelled in any capacity to make Blade multi-platform. I do not think they're going to make Blade multi-platform because when Wolverine is on the way, if you want superhero games to be something that people are coming to your platform to play, you're going to have to make it an exclusive. And so I think that it makes a ton of sense for it to be an Xbox exclusive. Now they could pull an audible and be like, "We want to make as much money as possible. Let's throw it out on everything." I think that if Xbox is focusing on building a platform that people want to go to as a destination for play, then they are going to make it an Xbox exclusive.
The other Sam in the chat agrees with you. No copium on console warring, but I do think the sentiment that Disney Marvel games will want high sales numbers, so would ask for multiplayer, isn't completely implausible. And I understand the thought process there. Like that, I completely get it until I understand like Microsoft could just be like, well, we'll just pay you for those lost sales, right? Like we have a ton of cash for these types of situations. Give it to us exclusively. We'll put in the Game Pass, drive those numbers. So I'm sitting here and I think personally, not I say 99% chance this is exclusive just based on the fact that like it's owned by Xbox. We know Indiana Jones is an exclusive, which they haven't announced either. I want people forget that Xbox has never officially come out and said Indiana Jones is an exclusive title. We only know that because of the FTC trial.
Yep.
So this is not new ground for them to like announce a Disney property and then don't tell us like that it's only going to be on Xbox.
Yeah, no, I think that give it time, but I do want to ask you, do you think it's weird how they rolled out these trailers and these blog posts? Have you been keeping up with like the timing of
Yes.
these things?
Yeah.
Because the trailer was up on Bethesda's YouTube channel, but it didn't get up on Xbox's YouTube channel until a day or two after. And then we just
Mhm.
got a blog post, I think this morning,
Mm.
with like a confirmation that Bethesda, we're excited to hear that
Yes.
Bethesda Softworks is making Blade. I'm like, what do you mean here? Did y'all just hear about this? What is
Like,
this
weren't you in
communication?
the room? You own them.
Yeah, aren't you the guy that's like footing the bill? So that felt weird. I don't know if that's just like, hey, it's 10 days till Christmas and the comms guys are all off and we dropped the ball on getting this one to the finish line or what that looked like. But felt very unusual, I think.
It feels to me, and this could be a conspiracy. It feels almost intentional, like they wanted to stir people up with this
Mm,
discussion, and then they slowly like, "We're gonna upload it to our YouTube channel." Well, PlayStation hasn't uploaded it to theirs, despite that tweet that was going around that is a Rickroll, people, all right? If you have clicked it, you got
that's
fooled.
great. That's good.
But it's only on the Xbox channel, all right? Then they're the ones tweeting about it. I just find it hard to believe that, and this is my big argument where people are like, "No, it's gonna come to PlayStation too." Like, if it was gonna come to PlayStation, I guarantee you that they would tweet or post something about
Yeah.
this game.
Yeah, I think that that could absolutely that is how they would do it if they knew that it was coming at that point. Now, to follow up with that question, could Xbox pull an Uno reverse card and say, "Hey, 1 year exclusivity on Xbox, then it's coming to PlayStation and or I will obviously be on PC, but then it's coming to PlayStation a year later." Is that something they would consider actually doing?
I think it depends. I think it depends on what they think is going to make them the most money and impact for the platform. To be honest with you, like I know we have that whole thing where like, oh well, we don't decide exclusivity like off like on a game by game, but like that's how we do it, game by game basis is what they've always said. I just still find it very hard to believe that like a studio owned by Xbox would make a non Xbox and PC exclusive game. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't compute for me, and I'm gonna kind of die on this hill until we know otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, 2024 and 2025 are really going to be the proving ground years of, is Microsoft actually going to stick with what they have said during all these acquisitions? And like, they're actually going for all the screens you've got, no matter where you're playing, and these games are going to be coming elsewhere. Or is it going to be the direct approach they've been taking of like, figuring stuff out? But yeah, Mojang,
Tom points out the Minecraft studio, obviously, but Minecraft is those these are Minecraft and Call of Duty and those live service games are different beasts for sure. Like I've always said, live service games are still going to come to other platforms. I fully believe that. I think single player games like this one, this is a single player, third person action narrative, whatever game they want to call it. Those games, I think, Xbox and PC only.
yeah, I mean, anything is possible. Like I said, it's going to be a proving ground of the next few years of seeing how Xbox is going to treat the studios and the releases that they've got. And I do think it comes down to money in some cases. I think that it comes down to trading off money for the platform, power, if you will, the buying power of the platform, and just seeing what that balance is going to look like for them, because it's a tough choice to make, because Blade would sell a lot of copies no matter where you put it. I mean, they could make money, but they could also build a lot of Xbox brand reputation as well.
We have a question about this coming from It's Kyle. He says, "Why do you think people are so desperate to try and find any reason for Xbox games to be multi-platform?"
Because they're sad people. No, I think that, I mean, if you really want to know my thoughts on it, I think that as Xbox collects the Thanos fist of studios, and they're starting to collect everybody, it is a little bit impending whenever you see all of these studios and all these games coming out under Xbox. It's almost like a place of like anxiety, maybe a little bit of like jealousy or whatever it might be. I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but there's like this, okay, what are they going to do? Like everybody wants to know what the plan is going to be. And so I think that they're trying to nitpick and figure out, okay, why would they do that? And try to figure out the thought process behind what they're about to do whenever none of us really know what's going on except for Phil and the people that are in the executive lounge at Xbox.
Spam in the chat. Surely it's because Xbox keeps talking about bringing their games to every screen, and Tim Stewart's makes comments specifically referencing PlayStation. So I do think their communication is one of the reasons for sure. Like Phil Spencer says contradictory statements to the CFO. Like the messaging isn't 100% clear for things you often, especially with Xbox, have to like dig and find the context and like try to really understand what they're trying to get at because the messaging just isn't consistent. But to answer the question, it's because a good amount on both sides, like when you see acquisitions, you don't want to have that fear that something you love is going to be taken away. So instead, you rationalize it and you're like, there's no way that they like Xbox is the loser in the console war. Like there's no way. It doesn't make any sense for them to take it away from us, you know?
Yeah. I think that it also just thinking about the future of where Xbox is potentially going with everything that they're making, there's a difference between talking about games like Mojang Studios and what they're putting out, and talking about games like Call of Duty, like you said, or even thinking about games that don't have a specific line, like what's going on with Gears of War 6 or the future of Halo. Would they make that multi-platform because it's a live service game and they would want it to be more on that Call of Duty scale? So there's so many elements that people are trying to figure out and pick
Mm.
apart that it's natural to have this kind of conversation. But yes, I do think that the lack of aligned communication is biting them in a lot of ways. And also, like, that's what comes with having a company of this size. Like, there are so many people that are like communicators, or I would assume they probably have different marketing directors within Xbox, and they're all trying to figure out what the other
Mhm.
one's doing. It's probably a communication disaster. I
Yeah, we
can't even
saw
imagine.
we saw with those Pete Hines emails, right? Where he was like, How come Activision gets to keep their games on
Yeah.
everything, but we don't? Like nobody told us that."
Yeah, I think it would be look to peek behind the curtain at Xbox and to see just how divided these various teams are would probably be jarring for a lot of people that look at Xbox and think of it as Xbox and Xbox Game Studios. Like they are all individual companies. These are like
Yeah.
40 different companies under the Xbox umbrella. So that's definitely something to keep in mind.
And that does it for the Game Awards, Sam. Was all the big major Xbox announcements. I'm pretty sure, unless I missed one, let me know in the comments down below. But let's keep it rolling. E3 is dead, Sam.
It is.
So the Entertainment Software Association, the ESA, has confirmed that after more than 20 years, E3 is officially ending. Um, I don't really have much to say. I feel like myself, I feel like even you and me together have mourned E3 multiple times now
Yeah.
on this show, off this show. It was canceled last year. Like the writing has been on the wall for so long, you know.
Yeah, the past, I would say, let's see, 2021 was the weird, like, kind of in person, kind of not. They did like a Summer Game Fest style situation. I don't even count that as an E3. That was like an E 2.5. I think that the last real E3 was like 2019.
Hmm.
Since 2019, it's been Weekend at Bernie's. Like, this bad boy has been dead, and we just been like dragging the corpse around at this point. But just to kind of pay tribute, like growing up, I've been doing content for like over 10 years. And watching E3 on G4 is why I got into doing what I do. And without that coverage, without that show, I wouldn't have heard about any of the games that I had played as a kid. My summers would have been totally different. Like
Hmm.
the amount of hype that that show drove, it still gets me excited just thinking about what E3 meant back in the day. And even if it isn't needed anymore and the industry has changed and we get announcements every single week, I mean, that's why we can do shows like this where we're constantly talking about news. The name E3 is such an iconic name for people like us that grew up on this stuff. And you can't help but be sad that it's going away. And it had its issues and it had its ups and downs. But thinking about like E3 06, 07, 08, 09, watching those on G4, that was the prime. It was so good. And it's just sad to think that we're never going to get that again. And Summer Game Fest is fine, but it's not E3. Like it's everybody's doing their own thing.
Hmm.
That was like a unified gaming industry like we will never see again.
Yeah, it is sad. I wasn't one of the people that was rooting for this to happen, but it's been one of those things where like we've seen it coming for years. I remember my first year in content creation doing the digital E3, like getting accepted, get like, oh,
Oh
you're
yeah.
part of it. And then you go and you realize like we're not actually allowing you to like have access to like developers and there's no like behind the scene like it's just marketing this year and I'm like well this isn't really E3 then like cuz the whole yes it was a marketing showcase but it was also about like connecting with like industry peers and like building connections with people, building game like celebrating gaming has been a big thing. And I remember, like you said, growing up watching G4, watching it on TV. And when I got older, like my brother and me, we would be living different places, but would be like, okay, I'm gonna hop in like an Xbox Live party chat and let's watch the showcase together. I remember him screaming in my ear when Fantasy Star Online 2 got shown off at the Xbox showcase. And I
Yeah.
was like, there are fantastic memories of E3 throughout its 20-year run, and it does suck to see. It just hasn't been able to adapt, unfortunately, for this new post-COVID era that we are living in.
Yeah, and I will say going to events like HCS earlier this year, and I want to go to more in 2024, but like I went to the Southeast Game Exchange, which is more of like a buying selling event, but there's such a beauty in-person events in the gaming industry. Like I would love to go to a PAX, and I want to see Reed Pop and people like the organizers of PAX put together more events like this that capture that excitement around E3. Maybe some behind the scenes developer sit downs and things like that where you can see what's going on. But I want to see this continue. I just don't know if it's viable
Hmm.
in the world that we're living in right now, if it's even needed or wanted. But I'll always have those memories, and I'll always think about how great E3 used to be, the coverage in Game Informers growing up, and like how it defined my entire month of June and stuff like that. It's just you can't replace it and you can't bring it back. But yeah, it's a bummer, but I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, our last story of the night is one that kind of flew under the radar and I saw only picked up by a few sites. So this comes from Derek Heap at Tweaktown, who points out some comments from Xbox CFO Tim Stewart that flew under the radar at the recent Wells Fargo summit. Stewart discussed the scenario for Xbox Game Pass where Microsoft may allow access in exchange for viewing advertisements. Quote, for models like Africa or India, Southeast Asia, maybe places that aren't console first. You can say, hey, do you want to watch 30 seconds of an ad and then get 2 hours of game streaming? He goes on to point out that people in these areas don't have the high end disposable income for a console, but these are ways that, like cloud gaming, they could access those markets by offering a sort of Game Pass tier with ads. So, how do you feel about this?
I am fine with this. This specific iteration of it, I have no problems with whatsoever because it is talking about cloud streaming through a browser or on your phone. And I think that the time that I get an ad when I'm booting up a game on Game Pass on my Xbox console, that's the problem.
Hmm.
But if it's like, hey, there's Game Pass Basic or whatever other thing they want to call it, and you can just boot up any game you want and watch a I would assume it's probably going to be more than 30 seconds if they were to implement this, but like 2 minutes of ads, go get your Mountain Dew game fuel and pour some ice over it or whatever, and then you're back and ready to rock in a couple of rounds of Halo or whatever. That sounds fine to me. Yeah, I don't have any problem.
Yeah, I was chatting with some people about this in the Discord, which you can join if you want to. Link down in the description below. But my whole thing was like in the scenario described by Tim Stewart, that sounds good and actually like kind of nice. Like I can imagine. I don't want to pay for like my kid isn't really like a hardcore gamer, but wants to play. Like just let him play on his tablet, watch it a 30-second ad, play for a little bit. It's definitely not gonna be 2 hours. That seems like a big amount of time for a 30-second ad. But this seems like a good idea, especially for people that are in those low income areas, especially if you can get this on thing like those every smart TV, like this would be good introduction into the Xbox ecosystem. I do think, and people have brought this up to me, it's a slippery slope. When
Oh
they
yeah.
allow this, do they start then pushing it, like you said, onto consoles, onto ultimate in games, which we know we saw Ubisoft have a technical issue a few weeks ago with their thing. So it is a slippery slope for sure. I understand people's concerns, and us Americans are more accepting of ads than anyone else in the world. So
Oh yeah.
this is a thing that we'd have to keep in check, and we'd
Yeah.
have to constant monitoring feedback, and people in Xbox would have to understand like it stops here.
Yeah, I would say even including this and factoring in like when you boot up your Xbox, if a game like Redfall or Starfield or Call of Duty are coming out, you'll get your boot up ad whenever you log in for the day or whatever. I don't think that's intrusive either. Ads on the dashboard, I know some people have problems with that. No problem
Yeah.
with that for me. Like it's fine, whatever. I think that it comes down to finding the balance of what subsidizes the cost of Game Pass the best, what maximizes your player base around the world in areas that are still emerging, like Southeast Asia, where a lot of people might not have a console, figuring out how to boost those numbers and boost that revenue in a way that isn't predatory or intrusive on the gaming experience is the way that they need to go. And that takes a lot of testing and iterating. And so we're seeing them do that right now, which is way better than just making changes. I will say that.
Hmm.
don't just throw this out there. Like, at least you're talking about it and thinking about it
Yeah.
instead of just doing it.
Blog posts that says, "Hey guys, got
Yeah.
ads now."
Yeah. Blog post with a gate on it that you have to watch an ad to get through, of course.
Disable
Yeah.
ad blocker, one of those little pop-ups, you know?
Yeah. They say to plug in the Xbox wire, watch
Mhm.
this 30-second ad. That's the line they use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we only have a few questions to round out the show, Sam. So, the other Sam, Sam Heaney writes in, it seems PlayStation and Xbox have swapped strategies in the past year or two. Xbox are now talking and showing a lot, and PlayStation is relatively silent. Hellblade has been shown for the fourth time in 4 years and still not dated, or even with a narrow window. And other games like Clockwork Revolution, Fable, State of Decay 3, and Perfect Dark have been shown seemingly several years in advance, while PlayStation now appear to wait till very close to launch to talk at all. Why do you guys think that these, amongst other publishers, can't seem to find a better middle ground in terms of when to reveal and or talk about upcoming games?
I mean, in my opinion, I think that right now behind the scenes, it is chaos on every side of the fence because with PlayStation, they're going through an identity crisis of, hey, we've been third person over the shoulder narrative people for the past 10 years. And lo and behold, now we're shifting under Jim Ryan to be a live service game. Well, now he's retiring. So now we're going to
Shift
drop off
back.
some of those. Yeah, now we're cutting the Last of Us faction so that Naughty Dog can do more stuff. But I think they're trying to figure out what they're doing. And I mean, of course, they have stuff in the works, but they probably want to make sure they talk about it when they're ready to talk about it so that we don't have a Last of Us faction situation like we're seeing tonight as we record this show. But on top of that, with Xbox, I think they had fully expected to see most of these games out by now. That's why they talked about them a couple of years ago, is because they probably expected them to be here by now. But with COVID changing timelines and with various things, just I mean, development is hard. They probably shifted things around, but I think it's a blend of being confident in the game that you're making and driving hype, and also potentially being a little bit too confident in the game you're making and driving too much hype. And I think that Xbox is going to find that out. And they're learning that now because they have a lot of games to talk about. Typically, it's just been two or three they've had to actually plan for in a big capacity. But now you've got a whole list of great stuff that you got to talk about. And then you got to figure out when.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Xbox kinda in the last few years and even this year with Redfall, they're still getting things together. So when they announced in 2019, 2020, like Perfect Dark and all these games that are still your Everwild, I think is another good example. Games that we're not still not going to see for years. That was far too early, but when they announced it, I think they were confident like we will see these in a few years. I think COVID studio issues, especially with the initiative, that studio has not worked out the way Xbox wanted it to at all. So much that so they're like, let's get Crystal Dynamics to basically make the game. I think other games like Clockwork Revolution we just saw for the first time, and that's not going to be like a super long wait, right? So they're finding a better ground. Personally, my feelings about PlayStation, they're not talking enough, but I can't tell if that's because they're like we're going to show things 4 months before they release, which I would love. If that is the strategy going forward, great. But with all of the like insider baseball things that have come out about them. And I know they're selling like hotcakes. So financially and player base wise, there's no issues there. I can't help feel that there is like serious issues behind the scenes in PlayStation's first party. That is just the vibe that they currently give off to me with like the Bungie issues and then like not knowing the live service route. I can't help but feel a little worried about like what are they doing behind the scenes where Xbox, yeah, they've announced some things way too far ahead, but I don't currently get the sense that they don't know what they're doing. I get the sense that they've kind of worked out the kinks over the last few years.
Yeah, I will say, just to tie in relevant new information here to talk about the PlayStation situation, in the Naughty Dog statement, they say, so we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio or continue to focus on single player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. And so I don't know how much Naughty Dog went to bat to continue doing what they've always done, because clearly that's the route they chose to take based on their cancellation of factions. But if Sony is on board with that approach, which clearly they are, then I think behind the scenes, they're definitely recalibrating and figuring out, okay, if we're not doing 11 or 12 live service games. Like they've already pared that back to, I think it was
Hmm.
like 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think they're going to focus more on figuring out what other games they want these studios to be making and getting back to those roots. And that might take time to pivot a little bit. It's like turning the Titanic, like you've got to start turning early if you want things to be delivered. So we could have a couple of dead years with PlayStation coming up. Again, like you said, reading into the situation. But yeah, just because their consoles are selling, and the same could be said for Xbox, like just because Game Pass is getting more numbers does not mean everything is always great behind the
Hmm.
scenes. And so that's always something to keep in mind. Like we only see so much, and then we start to see the cracks kind of show a little bit, and then we have situations like this. So
Yeah, we'll have to see how the Activision Blizzard like integration works. Like, do they have some issues with their announcements going forward? Like, it's all up in there. We'll see what happens. I think Alpaca Tom in the chat makes a good point. Microsoft announced a bunch of games early to promote the Series X. They need more promo than PlayStation.
yeah, that's totally fair.
I think it's
But
fair.
I will also say, like the general gaming population, there is a delay on, like right now everybody's like, PlayStation, it's the home of Call of Duty, soaps on the box, like the marketing's still there, Spider-Man's there, God of War's there, Gran Turismo's there, Horizon's there, all that stuff's out. So then that delay is going to come around, and a year from now all these PlayStation guys are going to be like, yo, where are the new games at? And that's whenever you're going to see, like, all right, you got to get this marketing machine running again because people are wondering what you are bringing them for buying this box.
Where's my Sly Cooper? That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Where's Banjo?
Where's
Xbox?
Banjo Xbox? All right, final question. Taylor writes in, if Xbox created its own horror franchise from scratch today, who in the Xbox umbrella would you want to develop it and what would you like to be the premise to be? One condition, you can't say Shinji Mikami. Well, Shinji Mikami is no longer a part of Tango Gameworks, so you don't have to worry about that. And I think we might have answered this one before because I specifically remember saying I wanted 343 to make a
Yeah.
Halo survival horror game like the Flood and like
Yeah.
ODST Marines.
Yeah, so back then we said 343. Now pivoting, I would like Treyarch to make a Halo
Mm.
zombies flood game. I think that would be really neat to see Treyarch kind of get a swing at that. If we're talking about first person shooter stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big Halo guy, clearly by all these various things on the shelf behind me. And I would love to see the horror Halo game that we've always wanted and deserved, which could be coming with some firefight. I mean, it's possible with the new mode they drop, but a dedicated horror Halo game sounds very, very good. I'm just saying, squad of ODSTs on a flood infested planet, and you've got to survive. It's right there. It writes itself. You should do it.
Also, hashtag make Gears horror again.
Ooh, yes, yes. Gears has a lot of potential. Also, I always take any opportunity I can to plug Helldivers. Or no, what was it called? The Hellbusters. Ooh,
Hive
Hivebusters.
Busters.
There it
Hive
is.
Busters.
Yes, Helldivers is the new PlayStation game.
Yeah.
And then I said something else. Yes, Hivebusters is a beautiful DLC with some of the best lighting I've ever seen on the Xbox Series X. You should all check it out. It's very good.
Absolutely. Well, Sam, that is all we have for this week's show. Thanks for rocking with me. Want to let everyone know where they can find you and your wonderful content, my friend.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at JamPackSam, over on Threads, on TikTok, on Instagram, all that good stuff. I would love to have you with me talking about games throughout the week. And as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you every Thursday or whenever we choose to do the show, but typically Thursday. It's a great time.
You can find me over on X at the Muffin Mon. It's a 1-7I-0-7A. Follow us at Save Game Media to stay up to date with all of our latest. We got a announcement coming for what our plans in 2024 are. Some changes are coming. Nothing too drastic, so don't get worried. But keep an eye out for that in the coming week or so. But until next week, we'll see you. Goodbye.